for the meeting goal thing and read that bit.
Yes.
Hi, recording. So we're just kicking off. So the DAML topic will be the first topic. And the bond vote did pass, but there's a 30-day waiting period. Board of Trustees did meet and the architect, John Hologram, did join them. So I assume they talked about what will happen when that waiting period does end for the appeal period. And then in addition to that, I happened to be at the library with my cat doing a read to a cat event. And the architect and the engineer were there meeting with Kevin Unrath, and he introduced me, so I got a chance to say hi. And John offered up that, you know, they've discussed the interest in kind of re-exploring what the cost situation would be for different solutions, especially for ground source. Kevin expressed that he's hopeful that it fits within the budget because he thinks it's philosophically probably the right choice for the library. I guess that's me putting words to what he said, which was not specifically those words. That was how I interpreted it. And John, the architect, said that, you know, he is really interested to see how that reevaluation goes. And he's like, you know, we're open to all options. We just got to figure out how to make it fit within the budget that was approved. So that's kind of where we're starting from. So no real changes there. So yes, early April is the next chance that it seems to really sit down and talk with the design team. I was hoping that we wouldn't have to wait that long for some of the utility conversations. Do you want to give a quick update, Melinda, on, I guess it's not really DAML specific, but we did talk with
Yeah, we talked with Richard Donnelly and Morgan
Hood?
I'm blanking now.
Oh.
Morgan.
I'll find it.
We all know Morgan.
Yeah, from VGS about their work, the work they are doing regarding geothermal. And you know, it kind of filled them in a little bit on what the Williston TENS team has been doing. And the DAML library expansion and how that could possibly fit into that and et cetera. So I guess they have done or are working on a project in Heinsberg and a few others around in Chittenden County.
Yeah, Megan Hood.
They're mostly really focused on new residential construction. And they, you know, if they said retrofitting or renovation is really, can be really challenging. And you gotta make sure that the heating system is like the right kind.
The delivery system has to match up.
Yeah, so anyway, that was all, you know, interesting and informative. I sense that they likely would not play a role with respect to DAML because it's just sort of outside their wheelhouse. You know, kind of what they're doing, but they could play a role insofar as the rebates and the incentives. So when it does come time to when the town like knows which, or actually even before, like when the town is exploring these different options, it would be good to get VGS and Efficiency Vermont and GMP all in the same room to talk about incentives and you know, for these different options so that we can get a real picture of the costs.
So when we did that for the town of Shelburne, got all three of them in the room, they collectively figured out a way to pay for a designer to, an engineer to design upgrades to their rooftop units. Because their rooftop units were way oversized.
Mhm.
but they were also contemplating some weatherization upgrades. And so it's an engineer is really good to be able to figure out like the sizing and like how the whole system works. So anyway, I don't know if that would be
Yeah,
required here, but that was a huge expense. That was, $10,000. So,
yeah,
yeah, stuff like that they can do.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, Debbie.
Yeah,
Right.
I'm not sure if you said this in passing, Melinda, or not, but I'm curious about the timing of finding out about incentives, because that could have a real impact on the cost and trying to stay in budget. What,
Right.
do you have a sense of what the right timing for that is and how we can make sure the architect and engineer people are informed?
Yeah, I think that after as soon after as possible, after the appeal period has run its course, we should make a plan to get together with Eric and the, Kevin
Director.
and, the architect team, engineering team for the library to really talk about this and get them to give the kind of the green light to have a meeting with these players so that we can give them a realistic, appraisal of cost of these different options. Yeah, I think that is very important to do early on.
May I
Yeah,
ask
I'll just
another
add,
question?
oh yeah, go, can I
Sorry.
add one thing about that
Yeah, yeah.
question, Debbie, and
You
then
go.
maybe
Mhm.
before we move on? And that is, what I wrote down specifically was that, while the custom incentives for DAML the DAML products sound like they probably would come through GMP. VGS does have some funds for carbon emissions reductions that kind of sounds like the same thing as tier 3, but it's slightly different.
Yeah.
And that certain types of projects they can put those toward, and they indicated that those we'd probably be more likely to be able to access those funds for a networked system. So if we had some sort of proposal that was actually networked, not just a single site, that would be more appetizing for them to push to allocate those funds there. Because it would be something new or something innovative that could try to be replicated or learned from to be replicated. And they said, from VGS's perspective, they said, as soon as we think the project is moving forward, they strongly recommend getting together with them, Green Mountain Power and Efficiency Vermont, because the sooner the better to figure out those numbers.
Yeah, sounds great. So, one thing is in terms of the federal tax incentives and how they might apply to a ground source heat pump system. I wonder if the architect slash engineer, if they have a tax person who looks at that, or if we need to find someone who can advise about how to design to maximize the federal tax incentives, because it can have to do with prevailing wage and other things like that. And I don't understand that well enough. So maybe like one thing to put on our list of to-dos is to find out about if they have that capacity or if they need that, and can we provide that or connect them to that in some way? Because I do know a person nationally who is focused on that, could ask. The other thing is I'm hearing about needing to stay within budget, of course. And is it possible for us to find some grant money or potentially some low interest loan, forgivable loan maybe, that might be part of the financing of this, because the long-term financials of this are so good. The Vermont Bond Bank recently told me they don't have enough energy projects in the pipeline coming to them for
Yeah.
their infrastructure financing. And then there's the Northern Border Regional Commission Catalyst Grant, which depends on timing. So I'm just wondering if we want to help them think beyond the budget if needed.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know that they're, let's see, they had planned to use some bond bank energy
Efficiency
project
loan, yeah.
efficiency loan for some of the work. And perhaps yeah, that's definitely something. I think to consider, you know,
There is also, well, so with the bond bank funding, it's a 10-year term.
yeah,
So that's often difficult for municipalities, and I've said that to as many people as I could say it to see if we could lengthen the term to make it, that's why they're not getting many
yeah.
bites off of that apple. But there's a small zero interest loan program that's about to be announced through the MERP program. But there's not a lot of money there. There's only $1 million.
And they're probably gonna prioritize more energy burden.
Actually, they said they were gonna prioritize municipalities that didn't get the MERP implementation grant, so
Okay.
I think you'd be competitive,
Okay,
but it'll be for small amounts. And I do think there are some strings attached in terms of prevailing wage, Buy America,
yeah, all that
Build
stuff.
America stuff, but if it was used for consulting like engineering,
Mhm.
That would be American.
yeah, I think
Yeah.
that would be easier, and given that you wouldn't get a whole lot of funds that.
Yeah, yeah, that might be a good thing to look into. Do you know exactly when that's gonna be?
I think they thought maybe tomorrow that they would announce it,
Okay,
so I'm gonna send it out to all the municipalities that
yeah,
applied to get the implementation grant.
okay.
I have found, if you really wanna pursue it, I would really encourage you to. I have found that just getting municipalities to even look at incentives to do some of the work that were in the assessments, the building assessments.
Yeah,
There's very little appetite to spend time doing that,
yeah, I mean,
so.
it's hard, I understand that because every time you do that, you're looking at like a half day, a 1 day walkthrough with Efficiency Vermont, like, we did with the lighting.
Yeah.
And then they came back and said, sorry, we can't help you.
Yeah.
So it's like,
Yeah.
and I've done so now I've done like 3 different walkthroughs.
Yeah.
Just regarding lighting, and it's hard to like, I don't know, invest that kind of time into something that's gonna be.
Municipal
Fruitless.
staff are very busy and stretched thin, and I can totally understand it, but I guess my point is that I don't know that very many municipalities are going to apply. to
Yeah,
And
that-
increase our
for that
chances if we're
funding.
willing to.
Yeah.
All right, well,
Go
that's
through
good to know, that's good to know.
Debbie,
Just quick note that many ground source heat pump systems are American made.
yeah,
Okay,
many are, yeah.
Yeah.
well, that's good.
Yep.
It says the recording is paused, is that an error?
No,
Okay. I don't know why it says paused. Sorry.
oh, this is recording, yeah, because I had started it on that computer.
Oh, I
and
got
then
it.
and
I
then
got it. Okay. sounds
Switched it
good.
to this, it doesn't matter, it's being recorded.
I'm not taking notes right now because
Yeah.
I didn't sleep enough last night and I know I will not be paying attention if I'm taking notes.
Yeah.
I was at the Vermont Green game, and they won their
Oh,
cup
yeah.
game against Portland.
Oh, wow,
nice.
that's
And
exciting.
it was cold.
Oh, yeah, it was cold.
It was cold.
Windy and.
But that's a divergence. So all of that, I think, comes down to we have a little bit of a conundrum with the library, which is like this chicken and egg thing. It's like, well, they want to wait and then look at the design and compare pricing, but in order to compare pricing, it seems like it would behoove us to start sooner than waiting. So it's a little bit tricky. One of the ways we could navigate that is similar with as we did with VGS is to have a general conversation
Mhm.
with GMP, a general conversation with Efficiency Vermont, where we mention that this is a project that is likely to be imminently considering incentives. It's not a meeting about DAML, but it's a meeting about what we're doing with this group, and then it kind of primes them so that when that
Mhm.
does come up, we can pull them together maybe more readily and they're more familiar with what we're
Well,
talking about.
That might not be a bad idea, uh. Yeah.
It's sort of a soft way to make progress without
Right.
actually being invited to speak with the design committee or things like that.
Yeah, I mean, we sort of, we had that meeting with Eli, but that was really related to charging, it wasn't. So I could contact, our
Yeah.
person at GMP and see he'd be willing to, have a meeting, you know, like a Zoom.
Specifically about this working group's purview, what we've been
Yeah,
considering and what might be coming.
You know, one of the things to also consider, so that you're aware of this, is that, none of this money will be, given upfront. You have to,
yeah,
you know, fill out paperwork after the project is completed,
Implemented.
and then they reimburse you
Yeah.
for certain amounts, so
right,
it's good to also understand the process as well.
yeah, and,
Okay.
we had a very sour experience with a reimbursement, with a federal reimbursement grant, so.
Yeah,
Okay,
You know, yeah,
that's a concern, yeah. I think with the budget question, to your budget question, Debbie, that's the budget has to do with the amount of borrowing through the bond. I think is the
Yes.
primary thing. Now, there might be squishiness within the town's budget to say, well, we could, short term, we could apply some fund balance or different things to cover the implementation and then apply for the incentive to reimburse, but I think it's really that bond aspect. They're thinking that like, okay, we can't borrow more than that amount.
yeah.
So
Please.
there are bridge loans through the Vermont Bond Bank that would be more borrowing, but might be very low cost and just very short term to get you to the incentives. So that's a question.
Okay.
But also I know that Efficiency Vermont's commercial incentives for ground source heat pumps are very good and are about $2,500 per ton. Now, whatever that means, they clearly have an idea of
Mhm.
how much they might contribute to a non-residential project. So we might be able to get some information. And
Yeah.
maybe our question for the design team or committee is how much more would it cost for the geothermal ground source system? Because then we could do what Middlebury did, which is doing some fundraising and grant seeking. So maybe we're not asking, can you fit it in? But if it would be more, how much more? And then we could potentially have some ideas about where we might look for that funding.
I like the idea of fundraising.
I was thinking about giving to the library project and I didn't have a chance to before the vote. And I was actually thinking that to myself was like, well, if there was appetite for a ground source heat pump system, maybe I'll come in and make a donation to cover the difference.
I know when I worked in Shelburne, people used to come in and say, I wanna give $200 to the police department. And we would take it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just that municipalities don't go out and ask for donations, but they can easily take them,
Yeah,
is my understanding.
Mhm.
Especially libraries that are looking for donations all the
yes,
time.
especially, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they could do a little
Establishment
capital
programs or-
campaign kind of thing.
Well, and they, I mean,
And they
they
do have an
are.
ongoing, you might have seen their sign, I don't know if you drove past the library on the way in, but they have one of those thermometer type signs, but it's stacks of books for how much they've fundraised.
That's great.
So they have an active campaign going.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, interesting.
So do you think that's reasonable to reach out to Efficiency Vermont and Vermont Power to see if somebody would be willing to meet with us before, like in the remainder of this month, to just inform them of what we're thinking about and mention that the library could be something that's gonna come up next month?
Yeah, I think that'd be a good idea.
I know that requires your time and effort.
Do you mean,
so-
do you mean like you and I meet?
Yeah, like we did with
Yeah.
Vermont Gas,
Yeah,
yeah,
sure, I
Yeah.
can reach out.
yeah,
Yeah.
more of an informal conversation.
It'll probably be Emily again.
Okay, yeah. Right.
Okay, and from the perspective of those who have been putting together materials for the, I should be, I should be clear that I think the design committee that put together the initial design is not, it is not going to reconvene. I think they're establishing a new design review committee to take the old designs and reassess whether anything needs to change before they become engineering designs. And or as the process of becoming engineering designs. So it's more of like a advisory committee as it moves through those phases. And I think that they're establishing a new committee because it's been like a year since they've really met on stuff.
Yeah. How are they going about establishing that committee?
I would like to know, I think, I have a feeling that the meeting that happened in the last week with the Board of Trustees may have included deciding how to establish that committee, but I don't know, and I'm not super familiar on how to find like meeting minutes and stuff on the
It's
Board of Trustees.
hard to
They're
find.
not easy, and Eric, I think, is the point of contact for
Yeah,
that anyway, so I think it would be useful to get those meeting notes
Yeah.
from the trustees to see where they are in that thought process of establishing a design committee. Are they already discussing that one of the first items they'll do is to speak with our group about recommendations
Mhm.
around ground source reevaluation? Or are they just, have they not even discussed convening the design committee yet, and they're gonna discuss that when they get to April? We don't know.
Mhm.
So I can take an action item. I'll watch the recording and make notes from it. I'll take an action item to reach out to Eric and ask for meeting notes. I might reach out to Eric and Kevin just for whoever is available to respond sooner, because I know they'll both have them
Yeah,
for those Board of Trustees meeting notes.
yeah.
Um,
And also just a quick note, I was
Yeah.
to make sure everybody's aware that Engineering Services of Vermont is the company that did the Middlebury Library project, is doing the
Yes.
Middlebury Library project. So it's very similar. It's a renovation of an existing older building and then add addition of new building.
Yeah, that's the same engineering group that's doing supporting Dorothy Allen Memorial Library from the notes that I saw. So and it did seem, by all accounts, the engineers are very familiar with ground source things, and that's part of why it was included in the initial evaluation. But I don't think incentives were at all calculated into the initial.
I thought they had been,
Did
but
they? There was, at least in the notes I saw, there wasn't any evidence that incentives were incorporated, but it could be. Anything else on the library specifically? Knowing that we have the larger village plan, public outreach, and town bodies and subject matter experts coming up on the agenda.
Nope.
All right, let's move on to the village plan. So Melinda and I have met since, and kudos. Huh? Oh yeah, she'll share on the screen. Those of us in the room have a paper copy. We took the feedback from the group about which aesthetic of map was best, and that's shown here. And then Melinda and I additionally took a look at sizing stuff, so approximately like what t-shirt sizing, small, medium, large, extra large type load a given site might be to come onto a networked system. So you'll notice like the library has two icons there. It has a purple and a green. That's the addition is green and the renovation of the existing space is purple.
and Reed, just to be clear, I didn't do any intentional
Yeah,
sizing.
yeah.
Yeah,
Not on here yet.
yeah,
Yeah, so we evaluated the sizing, and the idea is that the iconography can be set to to kind of give you a visual sense of how large a given building is, because like for instance, the police station, the town hall and the annex and the Old Brick Church, which is across the street from the police station, have very different levels of energy usage for heating and cooling. So one of the things that we'll be doing is helping bring that sizing aspect visually onto here, but you can see the icons representing the different sort of key points of interest. And then on the right-hand side, a version of a timeline that is a little bit easier to read than what we originally had, which was vertical text. Just looking to see if there's any feedback.
So when I see 2028 Damel renovation, should it say 2028 Damel renovation with ground source heat pump?
Yes, so
Because it isn't clear to me, it just as
What's
the
happening?
library renovation, yeah, what's happening? And then Warfield makes sense. And then Town Hall and Annex, is that like connected to Damel?
Yeah, maybe we need a title for the timeline that says like timeline of networked ground source build out or something like that.
Mm.
Because yes, these are supposed to be places that could be added to a system
Could
over
be
time.
added.
So starting with the plan in 2026, the expansion being added to the library in 2027 could be the first site of ground source in the village, followed by the renovated existing portion coming online, police station, and perhaps adding additional bore field to handle demand. And then, so we've looked kind of at the sequencing of how the different municipal buildings might come into play over time.
This is really great. I think visually it's excellent. I'm just wondering, like, for, I don't know who the audience is, but most people don't understand what a TENS is. And so I think a little more explanation about each of these on the right. And
Yeah.
what's potentially gonna happen, I think would be helpful.
Yeah, so maybe instead of the acronym, maybe the whole title thing on top could be Williston Village, Thermal Energy Network, build out.
Or concept or something.
Yeah,
Like that.
something
Right now it's just a
over time.
concept.
Yeah,
And I know, Debbie, that technically thermal energy networks have heat recovery and sharing as like a key, like what makes them different than just a ground source heat pump.
Not necessarily. Thermal energy networks is the umbrella term for all networks that use ground source heat pumps. So I think
So it's still appropriate to
you could
use.
call it a thermal energy network if it's only using geothermal as the one
Okay.
technology. In the future,
Okay.
you might add thermal storage, solar, waste heat recovery, like when you get to the store on the corner.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, or like
Yeah.
with the school, it probably has a lot of wastewater heat, so it could potentially become a source as well.
Yes, but this is
Okay.
definitely thermal energy network phases for the concept.
yeah.
And to Anne's
Great.
question, the idea behind this artifact is not that it would stand alone, that it would come with a presentation. It would be used if we were to go and speak with the planning commission. So, you know, if Steve wanted to present or wanted, to invite others from this group to come and help present, this would give like something we could put up on the screen that people could have a copy of. We could talk about it, people could draw on it. So it's really designed to be a facilitation tool for conversation as opposed to something you give to somebody and they interpret on their own. Yeah. Also for conversations with the manager's office when we're talking about like long-term planning of municipal facilities and how the village might look. And for the library design team, it would help them put into context, okay, well, if we went ground source, how would that contribute to, or how would that fit into a larger plan, potentially to have a networked system?
Mhm.
That's the idea. All right, any final feedback?
Do we wanna adding solar on here? I mean, maybe as some kind of optional portion of the timeline, because I know that makes a huge difference in the ongoing cost
Right.
of the electricity needed to run the system.
I think the likelihood of adding solar on town buildings because they are east-west roofs on the town buildings, other than the expansion of the library, is probably lower. However, the library expansion is a potential option, and I know that Kevin Unrath, one of his first questions was, well, if we're putting south-facing roof on, why don't we at least have a number for what it would cost and what it would contribute to have solar. And then the school does not currently have any solar, and boy, do they have
Oh my God.
roof space. I mean,
Yeah.
and it faces, they have roof space facing south, they have roof space facing southeast, and it's a metal standing seam roof. So
Yes, perfect.
it's
Yeah.
just perfect for solar, and there were concerns I know that came up we're getting a little off topic on the solar thing, but I know
It
concerns.
isn't totally off
Uh,
topic,
yeah.
because they're
I know,
usually paired.
I guess not off topic, but we're going down a little deep into this, but
Yeah.
I know that when the school put that roof on,
Uh-huh.
there was a conversation about whether solar should be part of that project, and there were concerns about maintenance of the roof and access to the mechanicals and stuff that are on it with adding solar. I've heard that from multiple sources as like, that's why it wasn't
Mhm.
done at that time. But I have to assume that the cost benefit would be pretty good given their exposure, and their
Yeah.
roofs are at great
We
slopes.
we should get a little analysis, have Aegis Solar go over there,
Yeah, they can do a lot of it just from the aerial photography to tell you
right?
how much space you have and the angles of the roofs and everything,
Yeah.
and they're like, yeah, this is what you would be looking at
Yeah.
for a cost and a payoff period. So
Yeah.
anyway,
Yeah.
it's something that's worth, certainly the solar science worth thinking about. As far as on this artifact, it would be weighing the pros of having that context versus the potential cons of just adding more complexity to something that already has a lot on it. So, so yeah, something for us to consider, and I'll make a note of it.
Mhm.
I'm sure the Energy Committee would want to talk about that piece of it for sure when we
Yeah.
talk about something like this.
Yeah.
Thanks, Melinda, for all your work on that. I feel like every
Sure.
time I call or stop in to see Melinda, she knows that I'm just creating more work. But this is, I mean, this type of thing can be the difference between like a non-starter conversation with different parties in town versus
Yeah.
a constructive conversation.
Right.
Yeah, this is really great.
It really helps you visualize it.
Yeah, a lot of people don't realize just how condensed our municipal infrastructure
Mhm.
is in village, so yeah, okay.
Just a quick note,
Yeah,
anytime you're looking at new solar, solar is also a source of heat, not just electricity.
that's true.
So,
Yeah, there's thermal heat that come off the panels that can be captured and reused, yeah.
How many
Ah.
people do that, though?
Do you know, Debbie, how
I
common that
don't
is?
know. I'll ask Jared.
Well, we
Yeah,
have our solar field in the back there,
yep,
so
Hmm.
I don't know, it's a little far away, I suppose.
yep.
And they're
But-
surrounded by wetlands, but
But this is the interesting part of the conversation is once you start talking about heat recovery, you get into conversations about the water main, wastewater main coming down from the highway rest stop, which is just constant water flowing down that I'm sure is at 60 some degrees and could be a serious source of heat that's free. It's just, people flushing toilets.
yeah,
So,
right.
okay. Public outreach, Steve, want to give us an update on kind of where your thinking is on this and what you've been up to?
Absolutely. So first of all, I have to tip my hat to Debbie, who has gone out of her way to make sure that I have all the information I need to really build this thing and make it work properly. So thank you for all that. What I've kind of come up with is what looks like it's going to be a series of, don't know exactly, 5 to 8 podcasts, each one of them maybe 15 minutes long. I don't want to go any longer than that. And what I'm thinking about is now that we kind of have a pretty good idea that we're going to be going forward, I'm going to build it like a case study, but not a case study. It's going to be a story, but basically it's going to start out with something along the lines of, and I'm just going to use Middlebury because they're one of our models here. The Middlebury Library had a problem. And the problem they had was obviously they had to reduce cost as much as possible. They've got aging infrastructure. They want to bring things up to date, blah, 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 blah. Here's the problem. The way that we currently heat and cool is as follows. These are the options that have traditionally been available to us. Talk a little bit about this because what I want to do is I want to ease people from what they know into what they don't. So I want to take them from this is what you're familiar with, this is what you know. We've got forced air, we've got floor heat, we've got baseboard heat, etc. And we all know how those work. But now, what if there was a way? Here are the problems with all of those. Now, what if there was a way to do all of that much more efficiently, much more effectively, lower carbon footprint, longer life, etc.? And the fact is that there is, and it's called the heat pump. And then I want to jump right into, if you want to understand what a heat pump is, let me introduce you to your refrigerator and talk to them a little bit about how a refrigerator works, okay? And expansion and compression and gas and all that kind of stuff. And then move from there slowly into, okay, now that you know what a heat pump in general is, let's talk about the fact that there are two different versions that we might consider, because you're going to hear about these and you need to know a little bit more about them. At each step along the way, I'm going to come back to Middlebury or whoever we decide to use and have their voices come in. So what I'm thinking right now is that I'm going to be kind of the MC on these. Debbie, you don't know this yet, but Debbie's going to be sort of the subject matter expert, sort of the neutral. I've been doing this a long time. I know what we're dealing with here. Here's what I can contribute. And then we'll use a variety of specific subject matter experts about different implementations, different technologies, engineering, etc., to color and augment the story. And so what I've got so far, and these are sort of half created scripts, because it takes a while to get them put together. Start with a story, how we heat and cool today, the local heating and cooling challenges that we face in a place like Vermont, like Arctic winters and humid mosquito infested summers, global heating and cooling challenges like geopolitical dependencies around oil and that kind of thing, cost, carbon, etc. What if an alternative solution existed that would in fact reduce petroleum dependency, that would in fact lower your overall long-term cost, would be more energy efficient, would have less impact on the environment, and so on? And it already does. Let me introduce you to your refrigerator. Then we enter the heat pump, talk a little bit about maybe Middlebury and what their initial steps were as they considered what we're trying to do. And then kind of explain the process so that people walk away understanding how it works, why it matters, why it's a good solution, etc. So we've got them kind of in our camp at that point. And then I want to come in and say, now, if it works for one building, couldn't it work for multiple buildings? And now we talk about a network. And we introduce the concept of multiple buildings being served off of a shared system. And what if we were to do this in Williston? Maybe beginning with the library, for example. And so what I want to do is I just want to feed them enough with each episode to keep them going, huh, so that by the time they get to the end of it, we haven't hit them with any single great big thing, but rather a series of digestible, chewable, one bite chunks, so that at the end of it, without them even realizing it, they now kind of understand what it's like. They can poke their friend and say, Middlebury did this. Let me tell you what happened with them, or the place up in Buffalo, or the place in Iowa, or, whichever one we ultimately decide to do. So I am at the point now where I'm ready to kind of start scripting these things. And by scripting, I mean not so much writing out a script, but who speaks where and what the topic is, so that we can all look at it and say, good to go. Wait, we need more here, or you forgot to mention this here, or. So I'm anticipating that I'll have a document to share with you probably about the middle of next week that will have everything in it so far, including all of the data that's been collected from all the meetings that's relevant. And we can then decide how we want to tear it apart and put it back together, so that I can start recording at least my part of it as the MC and lining up the other people in addition to Debbie and myself whose voices we want to have on this thing. So I'll shut up now and see if there's feedback on where we are
here. That sounds amazing.
I think it's going to be good. I think if we can, how do I say this? If we can sort of take the listener on a journey in a painless way that starts them with the assumption that you don't really know what a heat pump is, but I'm not going to point that out, because the fact of the matter is most people don't. They might be able to point to one because their neighbor bought one and it's that white box over there. Oh, really? How does it work? How about those Niners, huh? I mean, that's where the conversation is going to go, because they don't know. So if we give them just enough information to not feel stupid, that'll be able to get them to the next step where they can start to accept, and maybe accept a little bit more, and then start to see the economic value of this. And isn't it interesting that this works differently than any other system we've ever had? And don't we want that in Williston? And just kind of take it a step at a time. So
I wonder if somewhere in there between the air source heat pump and the ground source heat pump, and maybe you're already gonna do this, but address the high cost of heating. Like we had this winter when it was just so cold, and so the people who only had air source heat pumps had much higher electricity bills than they ever expected.
Yeah, what a
And
concept.
for lower income people, that's a big shock.
Yeah,
And so like with the ground source, even though it's more expensive to install, that isn't gonna be as much of an issue.
Yeah. Yeah, Debbie?
Unfortunately have to leave the meeting early in just a minute, but I want to say thank you. And I imagine that I could get my contact in West Union, Iowa, who is the library director there, to do a little recording with you. And the guy in
great.
Manchester, Connecticut, whose library is ground source heat pump and is to become an anchor for a network. So we
Excellent.
can pull in people from other states. I think it's really exciting and look forward to reading the script and helping more.
Thank you. And I think the more we pull in from out of state, the better, because it gives it a little bit more credibility than, just focusing on
Yeah.
on local stuff.
I think this can be used across Vermont and beyond. So I'm
that
excited.
reminds me, Debbie, that the expert at Hula on their geothermal system is
Yeah.
the husband of my friend that I went to the game last night with. And
Oh,
she said that he might want to join our working group.
Oh,
So
okay.
I'm gonna follow up with her and see if,
Is it,
and at the very least, he would be love to talk about their system and how it's worked for them.
is it John or Jamie? Do you know?
Um,
I can talk to you about it later, but they're
yeah,
both great. They're both really, really great at talking about it.
yeah.
And
Colleen
basically,
O'Brien is my friend, and it's
okay,
Colleen's husband. I don't
okay.
know the last name, whether it's the same or not.
Basically, when you talk to them about their system, they say it's pretty straightforward and really easy.
Yeah,
So
Hmm.
it's a good message.
Great.
So thank you all. And Steve, feel free to follow up with me about anything. And Reed, I'll talk to you later if you need anything.
yeah, sounds good.
Thanks,
Thank you
Debbie.
all. Bye.
Bye.
All right, great. Well, we're cruising right through. While there were not any other thoughts, sorry, about public outreach other than awesome, sounds really cool. Steve, looking forward to contributing suggestions as you get one of the scripts built out.
Yeah, sorry, I meant to mention the only other thing I would add is that any of this stuff that I'm building as audio content can easily be repurposed, and I'll design it this way, can be easily repurposed into written stuff. I can turn it into printed material. We can turn it into PowerPoint decks, whatever we need. It's going to be easy to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, with that in mind, so the Energy Committee produces an article for the Observer's Living Green section every month. And so maybe they'd be interested in doing like an article, kind of around your podcast series or,
Yeah, like,
turning that into.
Here's a paragraph. If you're interested in this, learn more on podcast number 1. And
Yeah, or something,
yeah,
right,
yeah,
Love it.
so.
Thank you. Love it.
that'd be really cool. And I think, even though it takes a lot of production work, short videos are highly effective at getting people hooked. So I also wonder if like a 45-second short video reel type thing that could be shared on social media, and then from there it can say, if this is interesting to you, check out the full podcast here and with a link. So think ways to get people hooked, and I know video gets people to pay to listen to the first bit, and then if they like the topic, maybe they'll listen to the podcast. So
Yeah, and I think people love show and tell.
yeah.
I can't tell you how many people contacted me. I've lost track after I did the thing about the water treatment plant.
Yeah.
We're talking about water treatment here, okay? They wanted pictures. It's like, okay, here you go. Here's all the pictures of unmentionable stuff that you can possibly digest. Good luck, have fun.
Love it.
But visual matters. So
Yeah. So finding ways to use visuals to get people to go deep on the audio, I think is a cool idea I'm interested in exploring. So Debbie, sorry, not Debbie, Kim texted me, said she wasn't able to join us today. She said she didn't have updates on fire department or ABS conversations, and that's fine if they speak to us, they will. The one outstanding item there, though, was that George Martin of LN Consulting, who works on Champlain College's systems, had offered, thanks to Steve's outreach, hey, happy to come talk with you, tour a facility that you're thinking about going ground source on or whatever. And in my mind, that the place that seemed like it might add the most value wasn't actually Damel, since their engineering team is familiar with ground source stuff. It was actually more likely like the fire department. Like, come see all the different systems they have, talk to them about how
Hmm.
radiant can be integrated and
Yeah.
that type of stuff. So I just wanted to throw that out there, that might be something we want to get back to George on. If everybody feels like thumbs up, that seems cool,
Mhm.
take him up on his offer and use it on a facility that maybe, we don't want to put a lot of time and effort into because we're focused on other things, but get them connected with an expert.
Yeah.
I see Melinda nodding, I see Ann nodding. Do you think that would
Yep.
be useful, Steve, from your conversation with him?
Or even,
Absolutely. I'm sorry, Melody, go ahead.
well, even, fire department, but even like town hall, since they,
Mhm.
they got presumably a cost estimate for heat pumps. What is that based on, and does it make sense, and how is that proposed system sized, and
Yeah.
should it be something different? I don't know.
Okay, maybe we could start with the fire department, and if the conversation goes well and he's willing to,
Yeah.
we could say, well, we also have the town hall, if you want to stop by sometime and see that.
Right, anyway, so that was.
I mean, I imagine just visiting the police, the fire station, with the amount of complexity there is there, they have
Yeah.
many different
Mhm.
systems, and there's a report, which
Yeah.
is helpful to be able to read the report ahead and know like exactly what mechanicals are in use and how old they are
Mhm.
and the delivery systems, all that stuff's been documented using that, for the acronym for the
MERP.
MERP, yeah, the MERP
Yeah.
report. So, it kind of is an easy access. The town hall's a little trickier because we don't have that. We have the proposal or the quotes.
Yeah, right.
So anyway, okay, given that, I'll see if Kim can make that connection. Steve, talk to the contact at the fire department and say, hey, we have an expert who's willing to tour a facility. We think this might be a great candidate. The fire station, make sure that the fire station's on board, and then go from there.
Mhm.
And then Kim mentioned one other thing to me, which is she said she just listens to about an hour-long presentation by Bernie Sanders' staff on how to apply for current earmarks federally. That attends in Williston could be a very attractive project based on what she heard. You can ask for up to $1 million, and in some situations even more. There is paperwork, and the congressional offices have to like coordinate. So you apply to all three, and then the staff work together to like consolidate all the different requests.
I know there is one request
Okay,
out there already for something in the village. but-
okay, in Wilson Village?
In Wilson
Oh.
Village.
Municipality.
From, not the municipality, from Habitat for Humanity and Vermont Conservation Board, yeah.
Is that the property
Yeah, it's
over there?
the
Oh, great.
property over there,
Um,
so.
Yeah, so I don't know if that helps or hurts our chances, but it's another potential funding source that has significant money. It's just a little bit of a
Right.
weird one because it's not like a typical grant where it's all established and you just apply. It's,
I think, I could be wrong, but I think the initial form that you fill out is pretty simple and
Yeah.
they come back to you and
wanna know.
invite you to actually apply. So you don't have to be fully committed, I think.
Mhm.
Well, I mean, you should be committed, but you don't have to.
you don't have to have all the details.
Yeah, exactly.
Uh,
Yeah, so that sounded really promising. She was pretty jazzed about it. She said if she was here, she would have rambled on about it, but she shot me a quick text to let me know that is out there.
That's coming right up. I think the
Yeah.
deadline is like early April.
That's the thing, is she
It's
said,
just a few weeks, but if the
the full
timeline,
narrative.
if the timeline is right
mhm.
with everything, maybe next year.
Yeah,
I mean, I don't know how fast this.
And it could be
project-
for the second
I know.
half of the project.
Yeah.
It could be for the renovation
I
portion.
think it's good to consider that source of funding. I do think there's gonna need to be some work to get people on board with that before,
Yeah.
you know, like, so, yeah, I agree
Well,
next year,
so-
yeah.
Yeah, I think April's the deadline this time around. But anyway, I asked her if she could share the link once she has it, or if anybody else has the link to that information about that program.
I would definitely put that in the notes to
Yeah.
think about like
Mhm.
close to this time next year,
Yeah,
depending on where the project is at.
yeah,
Cause yeah,
You can-
I've
yeah.
seen some projects funded like for $1 million, you know,
Right.
from congressionally directed spending, so.
mhm,
And it also, I mean, if the system is sort of like halfway built out and we're working on finishing it with the renovation of the other half, it's possible that it allows the project to come in under budget rather than having, not even knowing the money's there up front. It may not be part of the calculus on whether to go ground source or not, but if we go ground source, we could apply for funding to help with the project.
Mhm.
Reduce how much has to be borrowed. So,
Projects always take longer than you would think.
they.
right, I mean, we don't know,
Yeah,
maybe
yeah.
the first phase might not even end up making it for next year's building cycle, so we
Yeah.
don't know.
Yeah.
Just yet. So I wanted to share that from her. And then our final topic, we only have a couple minutes left, is just whether there's any updates on like different town bodies, because everybody's listening and paying attention to different things. So there are any town bodies that are ripe to have a conversation? So far, we had said the select board was on hold until the summer, probably not yet. The
Mhm.
energy committee is in good shape, planning commission, that Steve and Linda, we're gonna update them. I don't know if you've had meetings since then.
Well, I mean, I don't know, what do you think, Steve? About the planning commission?
I think that I could easily do, you know, you and I together obviously could do just a kind of a, let us fill you in on what we're doing over here in the TENS committee. So they all have a better sense of
Yeah.
what's going on. I mean, I think the extent of their awareness for the most part is they know we're here, but I don't think they know much about the details because, you
Yeah.
know, why would they, right?
Mhm.
And then Melinda, I think after that, we can decide if we need to go farther than that with the commission.
Yeah.
Okay.
makes
So maybe
sense.
a quick update would be good for them.
Mhm.
The housing committee, I know you mentioned, Melinda, there's been some turnover. And we
Yeah.
had talked last time about potentially looking to have like a chip program presentation to the housing committee. Where does that group stand?
So. Just thinking, I am gonna be talking to them next meeting, which is on April 1st.
Okay.
About the CHIP program and about, doing broader outreach in the community about the CHIP program, because in the webinars I've been attending, the presenters have been saying, you know, it'd be a really good idea to do, you know, broad community outreach about this program. Particularly if it's gonna involve like a bond vote in the future, to get the community informed. And so part of that could be, you know, could sort of mesh in,
Some sort of
ground-
presentation,
yeah,
that sort of stuff.
Ted's ground source heat. But anyway, yeah, that's my plan, to talk to them about, hosting a, kind of a outreach, forum for CHIP. So we might think about how to integrate the TENS work into that, but as far as, I mean, I think they'd be probably interested in, you know, in a, I don't know, presentation about like TENS and how it relates to housing affordability and that kind of stuff at some point,
Okay.
but.
Do you think there's anybody who's now on the committee who would like to join this group? Or
I
any
can
sense?
ask again, we're expecting to get a new member before the April meeting, so, yeah, so there's.
Put in their job description.
There's been a lot of, yeah, there's been a lot of
Yeah.
turnover, and.
Well, I'm glad you have someone joining.
Yeah, I think that, I could ask again.
Okay. And for the library board of trustees, I've got my action item, which is to follow up on what their notes are and find out how they're setting up this design review committee and how we can work with them. So I'll keep being minorly annoying, but not so annoying that they don't want to work with us.
Mhm.
Great.
Was.
Yeah,
Thank you so much for all the in-between work and for being here.
Mhm.
We're
Thank you.
doing well.
All right.
Keep it going. Thank
Thanks,
you.
Steve.
Take care.
Onward and upward.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.